Do you have any employees that just don't get along? Maybe it's how they interact, their communication styles, maybe they avoid each other?
So we have a tool that we have found to be very successful when working with organizations called the DISC assessment. It helps people understand others that they work with, helps them understand their preferences and their priorities related to their work, and oftentimes can address some of those communication and or conflict issues that two individuals may have.
With the DISC assessment, we have a couple of different reports that we're able to use. One of them I find most beneficial is the Supplemental Data Report. It's actually part of the DISC assessment that you can print out afterwards, and it's a great tool to help us understand each individual's priorities, and it really helps it make sense in the sense of why they do what they do. And the really interesting piece is you can have individuals with their dots are very similar, so their styles are very similar, but when you actually look at the details, the back end of the information, I would say, it gives us more depth and greater understanding of their priorities, anything from their energy to what's important with how they collaborate or don't collaborate, their action, their how well their objective, are they going to, ask questions or push back and so forth. And it helps you understand where they're coming from a little more when working with them. And Lona, I know you
that's
often...
a really good example. Just recently I had an organization reach out to me where there was a manager and one of their individuals that reported to them that were not meshing. They just weren't getting along. They weren't understanding each other, where they were coming from, had very different styles. And Michelle had mentioned, where people's dots are. And that's one of the best things about the DISC assessment, is that it's so simple to understand from a very general perspective. Yes. There's 4 main styles, and people are generally a blend of those 4 styles. But when you have when you have 2 individuals who have taken the DISC report, we can run something called the comparison report. So then it looks at each person's style, and each person gets an individualized report of how they react and respond to the other individual, and then the other person would get the opposite report, obviously, so that each person gets that personalized feedback on how they might be received by the other person, but then how they also could adjust their style to work more effectively with that person. And I actually went through that exercise with an individual not too long ago, and as he was reading through the report, it was an aha moment. It was, oh, well, that makes sense. I understand why, he focuses on this aspect of something, and I'm focusing on a different piece of it, and how his direct style comes across as very blunt and sometimes abrasive to me, because that's not how I generally communicate and approach things. So it started the conversation between them. It helped spark that conversation. So it's not going to make their relationship perfect, but it's a tool that they can use to start having conversations, to at least understand where each of them are coming from a little bit better than maybe what they did before. Yeah. So it's a great tool, and once both individuals have taken the DISC assessment, then we can run that report just to give them a little bit more in-depth look at it, which is great.
And it definitely creates a better understanding, a little empathy on understanding of why they do what they do. Right. And then it also identifies, through the process, you can identify goals and what you want to work on to build that relationship, to improve as you move forward working together. So both tools are very helpful in different ways.
Right. Yeah. So we can start off, with just the DISC report in general, where people get a better understanding of their personal style, and then we can dive deeper into, so how do I work better with the person who is down the hall, or the person that I have to collaborate with on a regular basis, that maybe we have completely different styles and it's just not clicking. So many times what ends up looking like conflict really just boils down to misunderstanding, lack of communication. Yeah.
And an interesting thing too, that sometimes when your dots are very similar, there's a lot of conflict there too. Yep. And it between the supplemental and the comparison reports, you're able to see how you're different, even though it may appear our styles are very similar.
Yep.
So
for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So takeaway, if you have a couple of individuals or pockets of individuals that are maybe struggling with collaborating and communicating, the DISC assessment is a great tool. We've seen it work many times and really help different teams out, and people work better together and collaborate.
And coaching.
Yeah, absolutely.